Good day to you. Welcome to the live stream. Let's just test the audio and let's get started. Before we start the stream, for those that are going to be hearing the recording, we're going to look today at a movie called Joe versus the Volcano and the lessons that are embedded within a movie that I think is, I don't know, it's got a lot going for it insofar as rules of law. So what are rules of law and why are they embedded in this movie? Rules of law, I believe, are embedded in basically every story. And movies are one of the foremost forms of storytelling because they involve so many different forms of media or mediums of storytelling, whether it be music, theatrics, story itself as in storyline, acting, anyway, lots. So it's a huge medium. And I really think that law is, at its fundamental basis, law is story, because law, L-A-W, comes from L-O-R-E. It's essentially story, like this story of life. So therefore, what is the law of life? This is why, when I'm going to be releasing these courses on natural law, it's got a lot to do with that. And what's our story as well? Like, how do they go in hand with one another? Welcome. If you're joining, please let me know. Hey, Link, how you going? Just let me know the audio's good and then I'll get started. It's been a few times I've wasted an entire stream just with no audio or crappy audio or what have you. So yeah, Joe versus Volcano, we're going to look at it and a little bit of a breakdown. Whether or not you're interested in the movie doesn't matter. These are universal principles of law, and I think it's super fun to be able to have a look at how they are portrayed in a movie format. So it was, I have no idea when it was made, I think 1990, something like that. It stars, good audio, thanks Beth. It stars Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And Summer brought this to my attention. Apparently she just randomly came across something to do with it and then looked it up and we watched it. I watched it like kind of sporadically. It would have been better to watch it in like just sit and watch the whole thing. I had to do other things in between, but I still got the gist of it. And it was really good because one of the things that we actually spoke about was how both Tom and Meg, they do look like they have some kind of purity there that's obviously, taken advantage of in that. As most of us know the stories of Hollywood and how that stuff all goes. But at the same time, there's something there that is very tangible and very poignant. So the premise of the movie is that this guy is in the drudgery world. So before he starts his hero's journey, he's in the world of drudgery. He does not like what he's doing. He does not know who he is at all. Part of the narrative throughout the movie is he's like, literally, I don't know who I am. There's a scene, I might pull it up. I'm going to share a couple of clips, which I just quickly found before I started the stream, where he wants to get fitted out for some clothing. And the guy, happens to be a black guy driving a limo, is like, well, I don't know which clothing stores to take you to because I don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, I certainly don't know which stores to take you to. Very, very interesting part of the scene, part of the movie. And so he goes from the world of drudgery, not knowing who he is. He's essentially dead inside. He's actually quite not well, as he keeps putting it, as well. And this to me symbolizes where people are at, where there's an old expression which people don't talk about enough, where if the soul or the spirit and the mind and the body, for example, are going in different directions, you will experience dis-ease, whether that looks like fatigue, degenerative illness, cancer, diabetes, like inflammation, anything that's quote unquote a terminal illness, all stems from the same root of that dichotomy of paths that essentially pull apart the being, so that it can't be healthy. It's not whole. It's not one. It's not unified. It's not harmonic. It's dissonant. And so that's how he experienced the dis-ease. And so he's in that. And then what happens is, as in a hero's journey, there's an inciting incident where he's given a prognosis of having this terminal illness of a brain cloud. And what's super interesting, I have found the clip. I'm going to play it. I haven't watched it. Hopefully it comes through okay. But the doctor is like a real doctor, because the doctor's done tests, but the tests were only done because the patient was basically begging for them to be done. And throughout these tests, he's just like, look, there's actually nothing wrong with you. It's all in your head. You're a hypochondriac, but at the same time, he creates this idea of this brain cloud to give him this idea that he's got this terminal illness. And he even says to him, you'll experience the next 4 or 5 months of perfect health, and then you're going to die. And it's so interesting to see what happens in the psychology of the character played by Tom Hanks, where he just starts feeling amazing. And so the inciting incident was going from the world of drudgery into now having this, oh no, there's this terminal illness. So now he has to go on this hero's journey where he's going to go to this island because he has to jump into this volcano. Some of the scripting and acting is actually really funny because it's very just to the point. There's no drama around it. There's just like, hey, I want to pay you all this money. I want you to go and jump into this volcano so that these people believe on their island that the volcano will be appeased if a man's life is sacrificed. And he's just like, all right. There's no like messing around. There's no drama. It's just like, okay. And even when he gets to the island, the chief's just like, okay, are you going to jump into the volcano now? And he's just like, okay. It's just really devoid of drama, which I love. It's really good storytelling. It's very humorous. And one of the reasons it's very humorous is because most of the time it's just drawn out with this dramatic stuff that's all nonsense. Anyway, that was cool. And so, that's the inciting incident. So now he's actually healthy and he's experiencing this vivid health and vibrant health, and he's exploring new things. He's getting to know himself. And then, we'll just go through some of the clips. I'm going to play the first one here, which is... this is the first scene whereby he quits. It's 5 minutes. I'm going to let it play right through, and then we're going to have a little look at breaking this down. Let's mute my mic, and hopefully YouTube doesn't cut this because I'm playing a movie.
No. You were wrong. He was wrong. Who said that? I didn't say that. If I said that, I would have been wrong. I would have been wrong. Isn't that right, Harry? I'm not arguing that with you. I'm not arguing that with you.
It's obviously terrible quality, but you get the picture.
I am not arguing that with you. Listen, let me call you back. I got something here, okay? Don't say anything until we finish our conversation, all right? Joe. Yeah!
This is actually classic. Hey, Topher. Hey, buddy.
3 hours.
Yeah, about that. Where's my friend? Where is my friend? Mr. Valturi. Mr. Valturi.
All right, just quickly, this part is where he is breaking down the construct of how things are meant to be. So we talk a lot about constructs, egregores, and entities. And what he's been under until now is he's been under this mind virus egregore entity of what's created in this work environment and what he is willingly entering into. This is key because what they're showing is that these spells, these prisons that are created are actually self-created. They're not imposed. They're offered, and we sell something in order to get into it. And I love this scene because hopefully this is the right scene that I've picked, but he actually articulates what he is being selling and for how much. So I just want you to take note that what's happening here, it doesn't matter if you've seen the movie or not, is that he is now breaking down the construct of this entity that he has been essentially run by for, the last 4 or 5 years of his time at this work environment. So let's just see how he exits this egregore and how he goes about it.
Hello? This is company property, mister. Joe, don't touch that! Ah, what are you doing?
I'm opening or closing the main drain.
You shouldn't be touching that, Joe.
Nothing happened. You know how long I've been wondering what happened if I did that?
Again, another key point. How often have people looked at something or wondered about something and they're always like, what would actually happen if I do that? There's so many different elements to this, even this scene, that I think are very poignant to watch a few times in your own time.
What's the matter with you?
Brain cloud.
What?
Oh, never mind. Listen, Mr. Waturi. Frank. I quit.
You mean today?
That's right.
That's great. Don't come looking for a reference from me.
Okay, I won't. Robinson Crusoe.
You blew this job.
Romeo and Juliet. The Odyssey.
You blew this job.
Ukulele. Been working here 4.5 years. The work I did I probably could have done in 5 or 6 months. At least 4 years left over. 4 years. If I had them now, like gold in my hand. Here. This is for you.
Notice that some of this symbology is relevant, but we don't have to talk about it, but just how he equates the cashing in of, if you could have those 4 years, if you hadn't been able to use that or he got it back, you'd have gold in his hand. It's a really important part of it as well, insofar as the currencies that we trade.
Goodbye.
You're going?
If you're leaving, leave. You'll get your check. And I promise you, you'll be easy to replace.
I should say something.
What are you muttering?
This life, what a joke. This situation, this room.
Joe, maybe you should just go.
You look terrible, Mr. Waturi. You look like a bag of shit stuffed in a cheap suit. Not that anybody could look good under these zombie lights. I can feel them sucking the juice out of my eyeball. Suck, 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 suck. $300 a week. That's the news. For $300 a week, I've lived in this sink, this used rubber.
You watch it, mister. There's a woman here.
Don't you think I know that, Frank? Don't you think that I am aware that there is a woman here? I can smell her like a flower. I can taste her like sugar on my tongue. When I'm 20 feet away, I can hear the fabric of her dress when she moves in her chair. Not that I've done anything about it. I've gone all day, every day, not doing, not saying, not taking the chance for $300 a week. And Frank, the coffee, it stinks. It tastes like arsenic. These lights give me a headache. If they don't give you a headache, you must be dead. So let's arrange the funeral.
You better get out of here. I'm telling you.
You're not telling me nothing.
I'm telling you.
Why? I ask myself, why have I put up with you? I can't imagine. But I know. It's fear, yellow freaking fear. I've been too chicken shit afraid to live my life, so I sold it to you for $300 freaking dollars. Oh, wait! You are lucky I don't kill you. You're lucky I don't rip your freaking throat out. But I'm not going to. Maybe you're not so lucky at that. Because I'm going to leave you here, Mr. Waturi. What could be worse than that? Dee Dee,
Yeah.
how about dinner tonight?
Yeah, okay.
All right, so that scene I find particularly poignant. There is a lot in that. When somebody is able to articulate what they have been selling and for how much, I think it's really important for the viewer. Like if you're resonating with some of, like most people will resonate with that on some level, whether it's to do with work, a relationship, a general viewing of the world, a general avoidance of getting to know oneself. It's like we're selling and we're trading these different currencies that are worth this gold. It's like it's there to be had because it's already there, but we avoid getting to it in so many different ways. And we actually do often just sell ourselves out. And that's like a very easy way to connect to that idea, to see somebody in such a disheveled state, in such a poor environment, but then to articulate exactly what it is that they are feeling and they're experiencing. But then what happens, you see a few things. You see him finally starting to speak what's real. And you see what happens when he talks about Meg Ryan in that way. He's just saying it how it is. And you see how I know it's acting, but this is obviously very much a dynamic that is appreciated between masculine and feminine dynamic, where, because women, women do need to be noticed, whether it's, more particular in specific ways, but that need to be noticed. And you see what happens in her character in that environment. They really, if you're into filmmaking, you see even the way that's lit, the way that's shot is really good at bringing in that feeling. But you see that other guy who's like zombie-like, you see the boss, what he's like, you see Meg Ryan's character as a feminine, flower that's not blooming at all, but she starts to almost bloom a bit when Tom Hanks' character talks about her in a certain way like that. And then his desire now to leave that drudgery world and to no longer sell, he is actually then going more towards that gold, but it's the gold within. So this was one of the biggest openers to the movie to show, this is what happens after the inciting incident of being given this prognosis. He literally just came from being told he has a terminal illness. And then this is what ensues. So he's had his inciting incident, and now he's starting to enter into this hero's journey. And it's quite actually entertaining as well. So that was that scene. I want to just go now into this one, because this is where he gets given the prognosis. And it's super interesting because turns out that this prognosis, you find out later in the movie, spoiler alert, just block your ears in case you want to watch it, is a lie. But what happens is, again, this is narratives within narratives of this is what most people are going through every single day. They break free of one illusion, but they're actually buying straight into another. The old expression is out of the frying pan and into the fire. So he's exited one entity but he's still being ruled by another entity. And it appears that he's being given, sorry, I just removed this. It appears that he's being given freedom. He's been exorcised from his demon that was holding him. Now, the demon wasn't holding him per se. He was giving himself away to this demon. The demon being the entity that is this environment, this job, the relationship with the boss and the dynamic there, the environment. So as he removes from that, it's because it's been incited by another offer, that offer being that he has terminal illness. On the surface, it looks like I'm out of the frying pan. I'm out of Plato's cave. I'm out of the rule or the prison of this entity that I have chosen for myself. But what looks like freedom is simply another one of those. It's just out of this and then into this one, and then out of this one and into this one. But they're still enclosures. They just don't appear to be, as an illusion, they don't appear to be an enclosure because it's a broader perspective. It's more expansive, but that expanse is still bound. And this is a lot of the analogies for things like the Matrix, the, the construct, any of that sort of stuff, is that people assume that because they're out of the thing that they think they're being bound by, they're actually just going into another one. And everybody's got their limit in the present point in time as to what they're willing to acknowledge is another construct. Because it gets to the point where they're just like the dude in the Matrix. I know this steak isn't real, but ignorance is bliss. It just gets too much. It's like, no, this can't be another construct. Like, no, I'm smart. I'm good. I'm spiritual. I did this. I took ayahuasca. I blah, 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 blah. So okay, so you had one entity or one prison kind of, let's say it dissipated. And now what are you in? Are you in the real world, or are you in another one, another simulation, another construct, another entity, another egregore, however you want to perceive that? The reality is that there's only one way out, which we'll get to, because I think that they allude to this in the movie, but it's just, I find this awesome. So let's watch this scene.
I knew it.
One sec.
Well, I didn't know it, but you have
Technical difficulties. Here we go.
A brain cloud.
brain cloud? Brain cloud? I knew it. Well, I didn't know it, but I knew it.
Yes. What's the matter with you?
Brain cloud? I have a brain cloud.
A brain cloud. What is a brain cloud? You didn't get a second opinion about something called a brain cloud?
I don't have a brain cloud.
Brain cloud, a brain cloud. You think they could think of something better than a brain cloud?
Okay, so now maybe that echoed, whatever, but I forgot to mute my mic. But essentially, this was showing two different scenes. One was where he's given the prognosis of a brain cloud. That is an offer, and it's the offer because it's created from the doctor. The doctor is the creator of that thought form, which is an entity or an egregore or a construct or a illusion or a synthetic overlay or whatever you want to call it. Like all these different terms people are throwing around. It was created from this doctor. So then that becomes a tangible, I won't say physical, but it becomes a tangible. That's why like entities aren't like visible. They're not physical things. It creates a tangible construct that the character then accepts and then forms an agreement that this is real. So the offer is made real by the recipient who agrees and then can play that out. That's how people can create within themselves an actual brain cloud or a tumor or a this or a that. But what is important to also know is that the creator of that, maxim of law, what you create, you own, the doctor actually owns that brain cloud. So no matter where this character goes in this scene or in this movie or in this scene of life, the law of life, the story is that that's consensual. No harm has been done. There is no trespass on this guy. There is no injury, harm, anything, because it's been accepted by way of offer and acceptance. Like Meg Ryan was saying, there's what, you didn't get a second opinion on something called a brain cloud. Like they're really dramatizing effectively how we all can do this every single day via way of self-imposed prisons. And one of the self-imposed prisons I see a lot in the quote-unquote truther and especially the quote-unquote spiritual world is that people think that because they have now black pilled, red pilled, blue, red pilled, purple pilled, whatever you want to call it, themselves out of one construct, they haven't actually developed any form of self-mastery or what people might in those terms called sovereignty, because they haven't acknowledged where that originally came from, which was actually from themselves. So they're like, yeah, I don't believe in the government anymore, but now I'm in the fifth dimension. And it's like, okay, that's out of the frying pan into the fire. And no matter how many times you do that, you are never going to get to that central point, which is the only way that you can ever be free, is the way I'll put that. So yeah, that scene was really important because that highlights this whole brain cloud part. So this one I love. I'm going to share this one now because this I feel was a pivotal part of the messaging of how people can escape a construct by exiting more of a mind state. So let's just watch this one because this one I think is super important. It might sound very much like a meme, but it's also really, really powerful. Ready?
Your life seems unbelievable to me. All of this, life seems unbelievable to me.
My father says that almost the whole world is asleep. Everybody you know, everybody you see, everybody you talk to. He says that only a few people are awake, and they live in a state of constant, total amazement.
All right. Can you relate to that? Do you live in a state of constant, total amazement? I've said many times throughout the time that I've been streaming that one of my favorite songs, if you want to call it that, is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, particularly because I love the line, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, how I wonder what you are. And a lot of the times we can get very fixated in our mind and in our knowledge. Like, well, I know the stars because the stars are this and they're made of like gas and I can name that's Orion's belt and that points in this direction and that means this and then that means that. And then I'm an astrologist, so I know this and I know that. And it's like, but none of those things are actually true. Some of those things can be true in isolation and in context. What does that mean? Well, let's take it in the context of this room or the isolation of this room. So I can explain a lot about, say, physics or magnetism or light or whatever based on this room, but is that true per se? Is that an inherent? No, it might be true in this room, but bring it into a different room or a different place. What's the analogy for that? A different construct, a different thought form, a different ideology. They don't have constants that can be relied upon in every single situation. So then you go, oh, wait, NASA isn't really telling us the truth. So therefore, it's not that, it's now this. So you go from one construct, you break free of that, and now you're into what you consider to be a broader one because it's like, oh, well, maybe those are portals or maybe those are this. They're not gas things. Maybe they're just like, they're not that huge. They're not that far away. But that's simply another construct. Outside of that, if you've gone through enough of them, you're like, oh, hey, there's got to be another one. Like, where does it end? Gurdjieff has a book, which I've never read, called Where Does Mind End? I just think that's funny, sorry. It's just because I bring up books I've never read. I haven't read many books at all. But I remember using this particular book as a wedge under a computer monitor that I had for a number of years on the floor because I never had any furniture. And I just loved the title. And it's really interesting. This is an aside. I'll get back to the point of this story, but I find it really interesting that sometimes just having a book in your presence, I actually feel like I extracted more of the essence of that book by having it scrunched up under a computer monitor while I was sitting on the floor of this room that I had. This is when I was like quite destitute and stuff. I could have picked that book up at any time and read it. I just never did. It just sat there. Where does mind end? Where does mind end? Gurdjieff. Where does mind end? Gurdjieff. Every single day. Gurdjieff. Where does mind end? And I really feel like I extracted a lot more of the essence of that book from that experience than reading the book. I don't know how or why. That's the feeling that I get from it. And I never did read that book. But isn't that a really interesting question? Where does mind end? And I think that the extrapolation of that is once you go from one construct to the next, it's like, well, where does that end? Where does a construct or the construct end? There are many answers to that, but you can really only derive a lot from yourself based on your experiences and how you see each one fall apart as you grow through more and more and more. And as you do that, you probably get to the stage where you're starting to realize that, like, all right, that as a linear fashion doesn't actually have an end. It is it's the Ouroboros of the snake eating its tail, essentially. What was I just saying? So yeah, that's super important, the wonder. So twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. In my experience, and my opinion is that in the wondering of that, there is more information. You will get more of the essence of what the stars really are than in studying like red pilling yourself or blue, purple, black, whatever, taking pills, just popping pills, doesn't matter what color, and then trying to break down what that is, like break through those illusions, because I think we're getting to the scene where it happens. There are ways to do that that don't involve doing that, and you actually get a lot closer to the real thing as a result. So let me just see. I played that one. Okay, I'll play the next scene because this is where they have, I think, share this tab instead. Okay, I think this is the one where they give some clues. If it's not, and I'm wrong, I'll just have to explain it. So let me just cue this one up. And here we go.
Huh? Yes. You want to marry him?
Yes.
You're married.
Thank you.
I'm going now.
Don't jump in.
Patricia? You listen to me. These are my last words. I gotta be brave. I gotta jump in. Goodbye.
last words, you know.
What?
I can't think of anything to say. I'm jumping in with you.
Oh, no, you're not.
Whither thou goest, I go.
You didn't sign up for this.
I do what I want.
Don't do it for me.
I'm not doing it for you. Joe, nobody knows anything. We'll take this leap and we'll see. We'll jump and we'll see. That's life.
I saw the moon when we were out there on the ocean, shining down on everything. I've been miserable so long. Years of my life wasted, free.
This is kind of gay, but it's still part of it.
I'm coming here to meet you. A long time on a crooked road. Did I ever tell you? The first time I saw you, felt like I'd seen you before.
You're not going anywhere without me.
So what are we hoping for here?
A miracle?
A miracle. Okay. I love you.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is it.
Okay.
Oh, this is it.
Okay.
Give me your hand.
Okay. I love you too.
Okay.
If you want to.
All right, so there's a lot in that. That's not the full scene that I was hoping, but I just want to break down a little bit of that anyway, because there are several elements to this where it's showing. The first thing, let me just say, is that insofar as breaking through these constructs, there's certain keys to it. And a lot of people, they want the knowledge, they want the mind knowledge. They're like, I want to know what the next thing is before I enter into it. Because why? The mind, the knowing, can bring a sense of, even if it's illusory, safety and security, value and knowingness, and things that people really value insofar as like, I need this to feel like it's okay, or to make that step, or to embark on this journey. But what often happens is that in that process, we define ourselves so heavily that we become very inflexible. And what that means is that if there is a, let's just call it a portal that we are destined to move through, we can't go through it with all of the other paraphernalia. We can't go through if we are too like dense and fixated in needing, knowing, wanting, etc., etc., etc. It has to come through a lightness of being that is accepting, has total faith and total trust, even if it's like a chosen trust and faith, to move through into this new dynamic or this new way or state of being. It's why when people talk about, you know, oh, we're going through this expansion phase and then everyone's going to be on this level or this dynamic or this frequency or whatever, I'm like, I don't personally see that as truth, because how do people do that if they're still holding the same set of frequencies or energies that are binding them to where they are now? I haven't yet seen, not that I think it's impossible, but I haven't yet seen where that's able to happen without some kind of choosing to let go or sacrificial, like that. That's depicting a sacrifice, a chosen sacrifice, or a willingness to sacrifice, and a trust and a faith and a whatever else. And a lightness of being. Do you notice that there's a lot of comedic lightness to the way that this is portrayed as well? So with that tends to come, as a result, something like we enter a new world. Let's just have a quick look, actually, because I found it very interesting how, I was going to mute it here, scrub through to find. So the first thing is they choose to marry, and they have a witness here, and the witness is this chief dude. he's witnessing. So it's very important in a lot of cases to have for something to be witnessed. Now, there's a big difference between a marriage, a relationship, a union, a soul. What would you call that? Soul contract. And what's happening here is they're facing what looks like a demonic or like a hell, essentially. Like if you look at this, that would be depicting a hell. It's below them. It's red. It's fiery. It's heat. It's scary. But what they're willing to do is, in these scenes here, what they're doing is they're shedding some of the old illusions. As in, you know what, like did I ever tell you this? Did I ever tell you that when I first saw you, you look like somebody? Now that's super cheesy and et cetera, but here is an entwining of the energies, the masculine and the feminine. Now the witness that was here with them, which was the chief, is now gone. Now they're left with the two and then the one, which is this fiery hell that awaits them, a sacrifice that awaits them. And then through symbology of now taking of the hands, if we can see that, I think we've already taken each other's hands there. And then the two become one, and we're not just each other, but then the two become one as they they jump. And how good are 90s special effects? I think even a base level AI on TikTok would do a better job these days. But anyhow, so then through the willingness to surrender and let go, the two becoming one, the union, now what happens is they transcend this volcano and they end up in, I think the water's symbolic, but I'm not sure exactly how. But anyway, there's a lot in just that one little scene that is showing law meaning story. And how does story relate to who we are, what we're doing here, how we imprison ourselves within constructs, and how we can move from one construct to the next. Then when we're in the next construct, what now? So in the hero's journey, we call it the standard world. Then the inciting incident. We're on the hero's journey, to just simplify it. Then you got the climax, and then you got the returning, but it's no longer the old world. We're in the new world, but it's another construct. So now what happens? What do we do with that? How do we utilize what we've been through before to make better use of, or find a deeper gift or more of that gold within this new construct? To which, if you're familiar with the process, you realize that, okay, there's another one waiting here. But how do I not make the same mistakes? How do I enter into agreements that are not so much taking from these energetic fields that I have, and they're starting to unify and harmonize to come more into the one? And then once that happens, then what? Because if you're expecting it because of experience, you think you know it, you figured it out. Okay, well now it's another hero's journey and it's another one. There'll be an inciting incident. I'll do this, I'll do that, and then this will happen, and I'll be in the new world, just leveled up a bit. As soon as you get into mind and you think you figured it out, you're back down to like, it's gonna look like you're in a construct that's like better or higher. I'm in the fifth dimension now, but it's actually more than likely gonna be of a lower, it's like a lower plane presenting itself as something higher. And because you believe in it so much, you're just gonna get like a bit of a spanking at the same time. The I becomes we, yeah, absolutely. Let me just go to Instagram quickly and just see if there's anything to... So one of the reasons this is important, I felt, was that there's a lot that we've been talking about recently, insofar as the willingness and ability to change, and how we can't allow the old to bind us into essentially a prison. And that prison is what I personally would term a soul prison. This was highlighted very well in that opening scene not the opening scene of the movie, but the one that I shared here, of him getting his prognosis of a terminal illness, which turned out to be a lie. We can cover that another time. But then how it was able to be revealed to him how much of this prison was his doing, not the boss, not the company, no blame. So remember in the last stream, I went through removing victim consciousness to removing blame to coming down to the I. So then in the I, you now have more power to then create from the right place. And then he started to do that. He started to go, you know what? I've actually sold myself to you. Like, what was my soul worth? What was my freedom worth? What was my time and energy worth? It was worth, I sold it to you for $300 a week. And to the point where he also let go of other opportunities, like letting the Meg Ryan character know that he liked her and he would like to get to know her, kind of thing, in that way. So this is what we do. We're faced with these decisions, I think, every single day, or these energies. And it's really important to use a characterization like that movie to just then use it as introspection, not, oh, Tom Hanks is in the Illuminati and drinks blood and he did all this shit. It's like, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's totally irrelevant. What is a movie like that helping to show you? Because the way that, quote unquote, they hope that it works is that you get an idea of something, but you externalize it and keep giving more power through they believe they're working through law with the disclosure, et cetera, et cetera. It's just an offer, and you can use that to your advantage as the way to, essentially the way, not the way out because it's the wrong way. Even saying the way in is not quite correct either. Kind of beyond words, but hopefully you get where I'm going with it. And what we have the opportunity to do is to just realize how we're binding ourselves. Even to the idea that this is what a movie is and this is what Hollywood is. That's still binding us. That's a self-imposed prison. So through law, which is story, we start to become more aware of our story. What's our law? Because our law then becomes our standing. How do we stand in the world? How do we stand under any kind of governance? Whether that's a government, whether that's your family, whether that's an entity, like how I described, it's a non-physical thing, that the construct, the egregore, the AI, the whatever you want to call it, all of that sort of stuff. And then how do we allow ourselves to interact with that to the point where, how do we keep coming into that essence of who we are to the point where they exist but don't exist at the same time? And they have no rule because we have standing. This is the essence, to me, this is the whole essence of law and natural law, and why I think it's really important to explore like the real meanings of this, because I see a lot of people, like I say, that they talk about it a lot. But it's always like, therefore it's this, and it means this, and you should do this with a birth certificate, or you should do that with a trust, or you should do this with a, like, I don't know, this is how you write a notice or do a fine. It's kind of like, it's got really nothing to do with that. It's got purely to do with story and standing. And so when we start to see story and standing as the primary aspect of what we're really needing to dial in for ourselves, I do really believe that anybody who goes down that path will start to, what they'll experience is that their soul and their like body and mind and whatever are no longer going to go in separate directions. But as they unify, there will be other entities that show up, whether they're projected from inside the self or they're imposed from others who don't like seeing somebody unify and harmonize, because it's going to represent change. Like, for example, I've got like 15 minutes left. So I'll just quickly tell this. So the stream that I did prior to the festival, which was like the week prior, was... I'm just going to find the name of it, because if you didn't watch it, I think it would be good to watch. Essentially, what I was going into was why I wouldn't be hugging people at the festival, especially if I didn't know them. Like, I'll still hug people that I know and that I have trust with, and we have a mutual like energy exchange with already or whatever. But lives. But I wasn't just going to hug randoms like I have done in the past. And what I noticed, it was called the sacred energy. So on YouTube and that, it was like after today's stream, it was 1, 2, 3 streams ago of the full length streams. And the reason that was important was because it was introducing an idea that I'm sure people have had, but haven't necessarily internalized well, because of constructs that dictate the way that we behave and where our energy goes and does not go. And it was very, very interesting to experience at the festival many different dynamics of people who loved it and respected it, and people who are really quite put off, and maybe you could say offended, but I think more accurately you would just say discombobulated, like don't really know how to, like somewhat angry, but not because they're offended. It's kind of like, what? like don't really know. Yeah, you could say offended actually. Probably is a good word to describe it, but just, you know, in broader than that. And it's really interesting to see how another energy will react to an energy that is starting to, because I never proclaim that I'm like this master of natural law or energies or whatever. I'm just definitely on a path of having come out of chronic fatigue to being very functional to now starting to actually get to a point where I know that I'm starting to understand how these energies work and how to play with them. And then, you know, in the future, I'll obviously, as I master things like that, I'll have a lot more value to share. But in the meantime, it's my journey that you can follow. And it's really interesting to see what happens when people have their idea or perception of who you are, what you should do, what should happen in an interaction. And when that's kind of like taken away from people, they don't know how to handle it. When I did the stream, if you look at the comments on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Telegram, the comments are actually very much, people are really, really appreciating that kind of point of view. And I tell you what, I think Owen Benjamin does a really, really good job of talking about this sort of stuff in a way that is very, it's a strong masculine energy, the way Owen brings this across, where he says things like, as a married man, you should never be alone with another woman. And there are many, many aspects to that which people find wrong or offensive, or it goes against but we're all a community. We should be more engaging with others. We should love people freely. We should never hold back, like, you know, a kind word or a hug or an acknowledgement or whatever. And all of that's showing context, but you've got to have a look at the dynamic of energies. And what I went through in that stream is that when an energy is there, even if it's unbeknownst to them, to take it, you've got to put hard boundaries with that. And in so doing, it breaks down constructs that are false, and it breaks down like many at once. So what I noticed happening in real time was that constructs were being broken while at the same time other constructs were being built. It was a really interesting thing to observe, where it was like a Game of Thrones of some of these darker energies that were there, energies that were, you know, there's always this mix, right? But there were definitely darker energies there that had a vested interest and an intent and a desire and a predetermined interest in building a dark force or an entity or an egregore that was there and that even happened from like within. That wasn't like, here's this external thing that here's a freedom festival, so let's go and like destroy it. It wasn't that at all. It actually comes from within. And it comes from within what people might perceive as the best intentions, hence the phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It can come from within that. And it can come from the inability to break down false constructs. And as a result, let's just call it a demon that's like, you know, just some awesome demon dude. It actually allows them like a back to spring off to get to where it wants to go, because these constructs haven't been broken down. Without them, they can't get where they want to go. But I observed a lot of stuff like that, which over time we'll talk about and break down more and more. Interestingly, I just saw a clip from Owen where he said that at the Bertaria Festival, he believes that there was something that was created like that, and he fell like, I won't say victim, but he succumbed to it. And that was super interesting. So I've got to watch his stream that he did, but I just watched a couple of the posts he did on Instagram. And it was super interesting to hear the way that he not only went through it unbeknownst to him, and then as he realized it was happening, and then managed to break that and to come through with like, you know, saying it how it was as well, which is, I think, as a learning experience for people who get to go along the journey with people like that, it should help people to break down so many of those within themselves, which is why it's such a valuable thing to do. And so the whole point of this is that as we become more aware of these entities, we start to realize that, yeah, some of them are built or offered by others, but the way that they grow comes from us. It comes from us going outside of ourselves into this thing, almost like a balloon that gets blown up but the impetus or the air from that is actually coming from us. So I've never used that analogy before. I just thought of it then. But if you go on that further, if you consider that breath is life, breath is spirit, you're actually giving it the spirit. It's coming from you. You're like, imagine it's this balloon and it's over here and it's offered and you're like, and it's like blowing up and blowing up to become this big construct that everybody kind of operates within. But what gave it life was us. It was our breath, because we actually have to do that. That's, I don't know if people resonate with that, but that's like when I see things happening, because, you know, you don't just see things visually, you see things energetically. That's what I see happening. That's how I see these things expand and grow. And then people wonder why they lack some of their own spirit or vision or insight or something. This is actually too deep. I don't know why I brought this up. It's actually too deep to explore, because you can think that you're having vision and insight and what have you, but it's coming from that construct. And so it's like being fed back to you, but it's not yours anymore. It's like, anyway, hopefully people understand what I'm talking about. Like, they can get a little deep for a stream that's only an hour. Love this, Tom. Boundaries are important. Yeah, super important. So yeah, anyway, hopefully that helps people just kind of like see things that are happening within themselves and their own dynamics. But that was very interesting to watch, where people were like, what? Like, I don't understand why aren't you hugging people? Like, if isn't that like an offer? Like, don't you have control over it? It's like, yeah. And the choice is to create the boundaries. Like, it's one of those things that I'll be doing more and more, where it's just, in order to separate from energies oftentimes, and if you are on this, I'm just talking now to people individually. This has nothing to do with me or festivals or people hugging or anything like this. This is to do with you as an individual. If you are able to hear what I'm saying and you resonate with this, you don't have to. I'm not saying this is truth or anything like that. But if you are on a path of getting to know yourself, it does require that you start breaking down and exiting and transcending these constructs that A, weren't your creation, but B, you've been upholding. And in order to do that, you need to remove yourself from constructs that don't serve you, was not your creation, you've been feeding, and other people are expecting you to uphold. It's like a factory that is just churning out, like, you know, whoopee cushions. And you kind of like, I don't think we need to live in a world where whoopee cushions exist anymore. But you're on the factory line and you're just like, shit, I've been on this factory line. Like, I'm actually helping these things exist. And now you get to a point where you're like, but this isn't me. This isn't my soul is not here to be part of a factory line that produces whoopee cushions. And so in so doing, you're now going to have to face the decision of like, I'm not going to operate this particular part of this chain anymore. And as you do that, the collective that you've been a part of, that is not part of your soul journey, now turns onto you. And it's like, no, you can't do that, because if you do that, I'm going to have to do more work, or this means that, or this. And the construct that is running it all can, not always, but it can fixate on you and really put a lot of attention on you. So now the individual has to decide, am I going to shrink back into this position and my soul is just going to have to take a back seat yet again to its purpose, its journey here, its uniqueness, its imprint that it's supposed to bring into this world, and just go, whoops, like, and just assume that position again? Or are you able to see that construct for what it is, which includes the type of, you know, you're doing what? You're not hugging, you what? Including but don't you have this, and isn't it that, and isn't it whatever? It's like, you need to be able to move through that eloquently and with grace and with compassion or honoring for like that, whatever that energy is. We don't have to, but it's a way that you can operate in it, to just transcend that to the point that it no longer has any binds, because now the soul and the body-mind construct are starting to weave closer together. Are they going to just be like, yep, done it now, and we're, you know, on the home straight? Maybe, maybe not, but at least closer together. And as we weave closer together to continue along what really is our feeling in this world, where we're really just figuring it out, we're getting to know ourselves, we're accessing deeper parts of ourselves that's just like, as we do that, our inner wealth we're starting to inherit that kingdom. And we're like, oh, this is, okay, starting to move through. But you also have to have, like it was depicted in the movie, it's like you might be facing a need to join. You might be facing a need to unify. You might be facing a need to take a leap. You might be facing a need to just accept something or let go. And as we do these and we coalesce or harmonize energies, and energies can be represented by people, like constructs like business, family, school, social media presence, or like a name, like an entity or an identity, a place of living, a church, a religion, any of those sorts of things, just call them energies. As we align ours, those realign in concert. Some will fall away, some will stay, but they'll realign. And you'll either use them in a different way or they just won't be around anymore. They just won't be operating within the same construct or whatever. But it'll be another new one, and you'll have to kind of like find ways to unify again and again. But God, like, isn't that honestly just such a wondrous thing? And just going back to that scene, it's like Meg Ryan's character says that my father says that there are only a few people in the world who are actually awake, and they live in a state of constant wonder. Because within that wonder, we're not bedding ourselves down into a construct. This is how it is. This is what I am doing now. This is, because it'll all just present itself to you as an illusion to show you where you're actually at, if and when you're able to see it, which will usually come in the form of something that, you know, isn't quite the best thing, even though it's always the right thing. And with that constant state of wonder, like if you put yourself in that now, like, don't you feel a bit lighter as a result of living in a constant state of wonder? Now, that doesn't mean not to study things. That doesn't mean don't delve into your learning to master something through knowledge, through application or acquisition of knowledge, through knowing, through any of that, through mastery of a skill. Like, you're probably not going to get super far just sitting back and just go, wow, like hammers are just so wondrous, and so are nails, and never actually pick one up and the other and make yourself a house for you and your family. Like that kind of physicality obviously exists and is important as well, but just not letting go of the wonder. So yeah, anyway, I hope that helps. I think that was an important lesson to go through from that film. Feel free to watch it if you don't have to either, but I think it was a useful one. Hugs can be imparted and received energetically, but nothing beats human touch when it's authentic and welcomed. Yeah. I went through that on the stream. There's reasons to hug. There's reasons not to hug. It's not that the hugging is the wrong thing to do. It's the lack of boundaries with it's the inability to move through a construct. That's the point. I don't think this is too deep at all. I'm very much resonating with this. Thank you for your insight. You're welcome, Chell. All right, that'll do for now because it's coming up to an hour. Thank you for joining. I will catch you on the next one. Just a reminder, if you want to not miss stuff, make sure you subscribe to my mailing list, tombarnett.tv, join the mailing list. And just because like when anything new comes out or things go down, it's just my way of reaching people to let you know where things go back up. And yeah, what does that one say? Nice. All right, some of the comments are good. All right, appreciate you guys joining in and sharing, and I'll catch you soon. And on Facebook and YouTube, thank you for joining, and see you guys next time.